The 5-year legal battle between Pax and Miles Guo goes far beyond an ordinary debt collection and becomes a battleground for defending American justice free from the CCP's interference. Protecting Americans' judicial independence is the responsibility of the American people. We are the new Chinese who are taking down the CCP, and we're here to help. The plaintiff and creditor, PAX, Pacific Alliance Asia Opportunity Fund, is a subsidiary of PAG, Pacific Alliance Group, headed by Shan Weijian, a CCP-registered spy with a public persona of a successful venture capitalist and a seasoned executive. Representing PAX is the international law firm O'Malveny, one of the first U.S. law firms to set up in Communist China, and was just awarded a top practice in Communist China in June 2022.
The defendant, debtor Miles Guo, the seventh son of a poor rural family with 8 boys. At age 13, he's already made fortunes with his various business adventures. At age 19, he was persecuted by the CCP for providing financial aid to the 1989 June 4th student movement, but survived the 22 months torture at the Qingfeng Detention Center. In 2015, he fled China and started the whistleblower movement in 2017. Mr. Guo's truth-telling broadcastings have awakened hundreds of millions of Chinese from the mind-controlling spells the CCP has cast on its people and the world. Hence, he became the most formidable enemy of the CCP.
Let's start with the scandalous incident that occurred most recently in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court District of Connecticut. On June 15, 2022, the court issued a memorandum of decision granting the United States trustee UST's motion for the appointment of a Chapter 11 trustee. 15 days later, on June 30, 2022, the UST filed a notice appointing Joe D. Whitley as Chapter 11 trustee and an application for seeking the court's approval of the appointment of Whitley as Chapter 11 trustee. On July 5, 2022, the day of the scheduled hearing of Whitley's appointment, UST notified the court that it would withdraw the application for the appointment of Whitley as the Chapter 11 trustee. What was supposed to be an appointment hearing of Whitley becomes a heated 39-minute debate between the judge and the UST on if the UST should have followed the procedure outlined in the Bankruptcy Code in removing Whitley, who at the time of this hearing had signed an affidavit under penalty of perjury declaring his disinterestedness. Despite the judge's inquiry, the UST attorney Holly Claiborne asserted that the UST has the governmental privilege and does not need to discuss or explain how the UST selects a trustee. Nevertheless, Claiborne emphasized the need for the UST to select and install an individual who can be impartial to all parties in the July 5th hearing. Only 2 days later, on July 7, 2022, the UST filed a notice appointing Luke A. Despens, a partner at Paul Hastings LLP, as Chapter 11 trustee, and an application seeking the court's approval of the appointment. Like O'Malveny, Paul Hastings has a significant and active presence in Communist China. Upon obtaining this news, Mr. Guo posted on Getter on the same day, stating that Paul Hastings is a long-term partner of PAG, the plaintiff PAG's parent company in China, and Luke A. Despens is not a disinterested person. This news rattled many followers of the whistleblower movement, who shortly after Miles' post located a shocking amount of evidence online about the close tie Paul Hastings has with PAG and the Chinese Communist Party. The next day, July 8, 2022, Luke A. Despens attended the hearing of his appointment and conveniently told the judge his earlier admission, Paul Hastings' representation of PAG. The followers of the whistleblower movement were furious at the time, and they turned their emotions into actions. They dug deeply into this matter and exposed more findings on social media. Probably under pressure, on July 12, 2022, Luke A. Despens filed his first supplemental declaration of disinterestedness, in which he declared that Paul Hastings represented certain entities that share a common parent with PAX. He did not disclose any details regarding those representations, other than to state that they were in unrelated matters. Why did the UST approach the two trustees, Whitley and Despens, differently? In Whitley's case, the UST perceived the purported conflict and immediately withdrew Whitley, ignoring the removal process outlined in the Bankruptcy Code, as well as the fact Whitley and his firm were not directly involved in the conflict. In Despens' case, the late-rising conflict relates to the PAG's parent company, PAG, and the UST moved forward with the appointment at lightning speed. Not to mention that the UST willfully ignored the undue influence that the Chinese government maintains over Paul Hastings by controlling its ability to do business in China and Hong Kong. Why did the UST hastily select the second trustee in just 2 days? Why it failed its first decision, made over 15 days from June 15th to 30th. In the next episode, we will share critical information about this case and the CCP's presence and interference in the American judicial system so you can get closer to the bottom of these questions.